Cora here. Welcome to my channel, CorasAtHerCorner, and today is actually a movie review day. Hi, if you're new here, I usually prank scammers and waste their time. You know, those creeps that like to try to steal money from people and call you nonstop claiming to be Amazon or PayPal, or even, who knows, the CIA. I don't know. They're those kinds of creeps. But anyway, I thought we would tone it down today because I've had a very eventful last month, and we would do a movie review of Lilo and Stitch, the live action, from the point of view of not only a mother, but the oldest out of all my siblings. Now, the original Lilo and Stitch came out in 2002, and by then, I was already a teenager, so I would have had no interest in it. And it's more of the fact, I don't think I saw much advertisement for it. So I really wasn't aware of Lilo and Stitch until I met my husband, because my niece-to-be, which would now be my niece who had recently passed, she loved Lilo and Stitch. She loved Stitch. So not only was this a tearjerker for me a little bit, this was a tearjerker for me a lot. But since seeing the live action, which I saw last week, I did see bits and pieces of the original because I let my kids watch it one time just to see what they think, see if they did want to go to the theater and see it. And they just watched it once and it was like, okay, oh, you want to go see live action? My oldest, and he was like, no. So I have an idea how the original one's supposed to be. So though I did not grow up myself on Lilo and Stitch, I have an idea what the original was about. So let's get into it. Warning, there are spoils ahead. So here we go. Live actions, I don't think Disney realizes people are not too interested in that as they are original stories. But if you look at Disney's history, they've barely ever had original stories. Snow White was an original story by somebody else. Little Mermaid, Hans Christian Andersen, I believe it was, that made that up. Along with, I think it was the Snow Queen, which is Frozen's based off of. Anyways, back to these live actions. It's nice once in a while to see a movie go to live action, but people aren't begging for it. This one, however, I think if the ending was done a little bit differently, people would have changed their mind about this live action. So let's start from the beginning. So in the beginning, and I've seen the beginning of the original movie, you have little Stitch, who is revealed to be this experiment, which, seeing Stitch, I knew he was an alien, but I didn't know he was an experiment. So this was a little bit of a surprise to me when I saw it in the advertisement. And apparently he's this experiment gone wrong. In the original movie, I did see, you know, they ask him to say something and he speaks in gibberish, and I'm appalled. And from what I remember of the live action, because forgive me, it's been almost a week, he did the same, or he didn't talk at all on the mic. I can't remember, and I'm sorry. But the original, seeing that, I laughed. I'm like, yeah, he had to have said something naughty in Alien. And if even live action today as a parent, kids don't know that. They don't see that point of view. So you hear blah, 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 blah. They don't know if an alien's swearing or not. That's not a language that they speak. That's why in the original Hercules, Phil goes, oy vey. And in Greek, that means, oh. So here we get to him escaping. Oh, he's gonna fall into the water and we won't have to worry about him because he's this menace to society. He's this disaster of a project that was illegally made. They think he's gonna fall in the water, and he, of course, we all knew this was gonna happen. He lands in Hawaii. So Pleakley and Jumba are sent off to go get him, take care of him. Now, Jumba is actually played in this movie by Zach Galifianakis. I do like Zach as an actor and everything. I don't know if his voice was right for this. If he could pull off a Russian accent, great, then he would have been perfect. But it seems like Disney was trying to think that if we have somebody pull off a Russian accent, or if we hire a Russian actor, people might be offended. I think the only offense is that they didn't even hire a Russian actor. And Zach Galifianakis, during their disguise, I did not recognize that as Zach at all, so they did really well with that. So Stitch ends up crashing. Now, there was a couple times where I had to leave the theater. The one time was my straw had a hole in it, and it got bigger until I finally discovered it, so I had to skedaddle out. This was during that time. This was one part I kind of missed. I seen the previews of Stitch acting like a dog in the dog pound, and I was like, okay, you know, that makes sense, because I know that they try to pass him off as a dog. I remember that fact, of learning that fact. So he tries to disguise him as a dog, and then he looks at the poster of the dog. He's like, they don't have antennas like us. So he takes away his little antennas and And then like Lilo just screams, you're like, is she afraid? Is she loving this? What is it? And you realize with Lilo, screaming is her way of excitement. I mean, kids will do that. But onto the girl that plays Lilo, I think she handled the press very well for this movie. She did a wonderful job. I actually looked up her information a little bit, and she is just a year older than my oldest son. And in the movie, she's supposed to be 6, so I would not be surprised when she filmed that she was 6. She kind of reminds me of my oldest son and some kids that I've known, because I have helped take care of my niece and nephews, so I know what it's like, you know, to help somebody else along with raising their kids. I also helped babysit for my friend at the time who also had kids early, so I've been around kids for a long time. My youngest brother is 10 years younger than me, so I really have been around kids all my life. So that I think was a good idea to put in, because that is a very characteristic thing for a kid. You know, the girl that played Lilo, she did very well. You could tell she played that part with pride. And I hope, and really do hope, from her parents didn't push her into it, because you know how some parents could be. She made it seem like she really wanted to be there. So I really think watching that, she did want to be there, and I hope she did, and I hope she had a blast, you know, and I hope it was a good experience for her. I don't know how much she'll remember because she's still little, but hopefully she did at least get a couple memories out of that she'll remember down the line when she's in like her 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on. But back to the story, you know, Nani. So Lilo had that little luau she was supposed to go to, and I heard about that fight like the day before I saw it. Not the one from the live action, but from the original. And so I'm like, I wonder how they're gonna play that out. And the way they did it, you know, she pushed her and the girl fell. I mean, it's good to see for kids to see, but I would have liked more action with that. But I like being a catty. But I think it was a good way to present it for something for a kid's movie. In Lilo, you can tell how adventurous she is, the way they represented her character, with her going into the hot tub in the resort where locals were not allowed. But you know, Lilo gets kicked out of Hula. And then the neighbor Tutu, I really liked her. With Nani having these problems, what some people don't understand, when back in the day, when women mostly stayed home, the reason why they was able to survive day to day was because they had a community. And that's something these days it lacks, because you have, and no offense to any woman that's working, but you have more women out there in the workforce, and some actually have to be, and they have no choice. You see, with me, I'm very lucky my husband takes care of things, so I can stay home, take care of our kids. This is just like my little side gig. My books are just a little side hustle. My husband is the big breadwinner in this, and it is hard to do stuff without a community, because I moved to a city where I didn't know anybody except for my husband and his family. But I do have a community, because I was that part of the community when I helped take care of my niece and nephews when my sister-in-law had to work and so on. So, you know, the community is still there. And what some people don't understand these days is community is what keeps you strong and together. So Tutu, I think they could have portrayed her better. From what I heard, Native Hawaiians, they really hold on to that culture of community. And it didn't seem like she had a job that she was retired. I could be wrong. David was out there, which is her grandson, doing work and stuff. And I feel like she would have stepped in a little bit more to check on Nani, make sure everything was going with Nani. Because of course you got the stupid state coming in and be like, well, you gotta do this, and you got 3 days to do this. Signing up a child for healthcare usually takes longer, I think, than 3 days, because you have to contact them, then they have to contact you, and then you gotta wait on papers, and it's a whole mess. So the amount of days they gave Nani, I personally don't think it was long enough. But Tutu, I think if I was in her position, you know, as I'm not a grandmother, my kids are too young, but you know, being able to stay home and I see my neighbor struggling after her parents have passed, trying to raise her little sister, I'd been like, listen, you need to get a job. That's fine. Have Lilo come over to my house when she doesn't have anything going on, and, you know, which when Lilo goes to the dog pound, Tutu does take her. So I don't know if there was a scene in there where she says something to Nani like that or not. Lilo and Stitch is all about Ohana. Listen, Ohana. Ohana means family. Family means nobody gets left behind or forgot. And it seems like in the Hawaiian culture over there, from what I heard, and if I'm wrong, please correct me down in the comments, it's a whole thing down there where they stick together. But anyways, Tutu, I thought, you know, they could have brought out her character more as a loving grandma instead of just being that neighbor there. But anyway, so Lilo gets Stitch, and so she begs Tutu, you know, let's take Stitch home. In the original movie, from what I did see, Nani says, okay, yeah, we can get this dog. So I think it was a little sneaky of Tutu to do it, to have her do it, because like that's kind of like doing something without asking permission of the parent, because technically in this case, Nani is the parent. So I thought maybe they should have had Nani be the one, just like in the original movie, but to me it was okay. But it's really sweet when Lilo decided to wish upon a star and it was actually Stitch falling from the sky. You know, like, I want a friend, and I did cry during that part. I'm like, oh my gosh, because it's hard to see a child wanting a friend at that age and they have no friends. Oh my gosh, it's just like, I'm almost like looking at my own son doing that. Because like I said, they're close in age and it was just sad. But anyways, during this time, Pleakley and Jumba are after Stitch, and for their disguises, they were humans. I totally get it if it was for money reasons. It's just easier to do those two than computer generated. I totally get that. In my opinion, if they would have hired a Russian actor who didn't fit the body type of Jumba and they wanted Zach Galifianakis, part of that disguise could have been he could change his voice too. Just saying. I thought it was just an idea. But Pleakley, the guy who played Pleakley, he was wonderful. And now that I've seen clips of the original Pleakley, he did so well. I think he did great. But finally seeing the original disguises of Pleakley and Jumba, they never changed human form and they were just in drag. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was alright. I liked the other disguises better for the aliens, which I thought was hilarious, but they didn't go that way. So Nani's trying to keep a job, and watching Nani as a sister who's trying to be a mother, I could relate with the frustrations that I saw from her, because kids can sometimes be frustrating, and you know, you tell them what to do, they do complete opposite. Sometimes you tell them don't touch that and they'll look straight you in the eye and just touch it as you're telling them don't touch that. That's just what kids do. But putting Nani in a hard situation like that, you know, you lost your parents and you are the oldest sibling and you don't want to be separated from your sister. Me being the oldest, now if I were to put myself in that position, I do agree, it would be very hard. I have 3 younger brothers. Say when I was 19, the next oldest one would have been 14, and then probably the other one I think would have been 12. And then me being 19, the last one would have been 9. So that would have been a hard situation to think about. Now, the 2 youngest, I definitely would have took in. The one that's the next oldest, I would have to double think about that. And if he watches this, you were hard as a kid, you're still hard as an adult. But I definitely felt the frustration and all the chaos with Nani. I could relate to that as a mom, actually. And the thing, I wish somebody would stop and tell her, because I don't even think the state told her, who, by the way, was the original Nani. Listen, it's hard, but you can get this. And that's what I wish somebody would just reach out to her and said, you know, if you have anybody around you think can help, you know, there is a community by you. But they completely blew it off of the movie. Like I said, once again, community is important, and it sounds like it. I've never been there, but it sounds like that Native Hawaiians, they have a community built between them, and that's the way it should be in any community. I really wish that I could have gone in that screen and been like, listen, it's hard, but you can do this. And of course, you know, Nani, she has a job, and because Stitch, I guess the table burned down, like fire started and stuff, so she got fired. That's the thing though, why did you bring a kid and a supposed dog to your work? They're not gonna be able to sit there for like 6 to 8 hours and do that. I don't know what Tutu was doing, but at this point too, before she gets fired, we meet David. My opinion is the way they had drawn David, and I've seen pictures of David, so even without seeing the original movie, I know what he's supposed to look like. I feel David probably should have been more muscular, but that's my opinion. The guy did alright. I think he did fine. I just wish that I would have seen more muscular, but he didn't do too bad. So in we have Agent Bubbles, Cobra Bubbles, who discovers that something might be going on, that something might be different with Stitch, that he might be an alien. And so he asks the state, you know, hey, can I come in as a disguise? The thing is though, about Cobra Bubbles, the guy who played him, I think he did alright. I knew he looked familiar. I think he did good, but I think Disney messed up on this one. A lot of people have different opinions who should have played Cobra Bubbles. I personally think Terry Crews should have been Cobra Bubbles. He would have been perfect for a little bit more of a laugh. I think he would have done great. Him and the caseworker, they go talk to Nani and they find out that she lost her job, so you have to go get another job, and don't forget the health insurance. They make it sound like getting health insurance is like that easy. It's not. It's really not. And then certain ones, well, it's not enrollment time. What? So Nani goes on this spree to get hired, and you can feel the frustration from her. I think the woman who played Nani did wonderful. I really think you can feel, as a mother, you can feel that anxiety, that frustration. You feel it off of her, and I think she did wonderful as that. So she's looking for a job, and she can't seem to get one. And then finally, Lilo's like, hey, you like surfing, why don't you get this job teaching surfing? So she goes and she tries and she gets this job, and bada boom, you know, doing what you love. She gets this job being an instructor how to surf, and like I said, that's one of the things she could do what she loves while taking care of her sister. The only problem is probably don't get paid as much as if you were to be a marine biologist, but this is something stable for now, a job, something to help the bills. That was the other thing, you know, oh, you have to have all the bills paid and a job and health insurance in like 3 days or 5 days or 4 days. I don't remember. You're telling me that my job that I won't get paid for a couple of weeks is supposed to pay the bills within a couple of days? That's not how that works. So Stitch realizes, hey, they did hire a real dog for this. And it was a surfing dog, and they hired him because he could do that. So Stitch sees the surfing dog, and he's like, pushes it up to Lilo, like, hey, I want to go. So him and Lilo, they have this wonderful time surfing, and then an accident happens where Lilo almost drowns, and she's saved by, I think it was Nani, and she has to go to the hospital, and oh no, your bills are so expensive and you have no insurance. So then we have the caseworker going like, well, you know, the state will take care of it if you just give her up. Like, are you serious? Like, you're supposed to be a caseworker, not a manipulator. I felt like that was manipulation within the writing, and is bad. You know, accidents happen, yes, but that kind of pissed me off. Kids come with bills, they come with everything, but I even have a relative recently who broke her wrist and she can't afford it, and she did payments and she's almost paid off of it, luckily. And they even took it down and stuff because of her income and all that. So I'm pretty sure the hospital would have done something like that instead of being like, well, yeah, just give up the kid. Like, what? No. Like, I could, it'd be like if something happened to my own child and I'm like, oh, well, he was in an accident, and since you don't have health insurance, just give it to the state. What? No. He's my son. He's my family. I'm going to say it like this. If it would have happened to one of my two other brothers, I would have not given them up. I would have done anything I could. Like I said, the oldest one is a little iffy. I probably honestly would have figured out a way to where he wouldn't have been separated from us. It's just if I'm gonna easily give up a child, it would have been him. But it's like, and then Nani thinks about it, and she's like, okay, maybe it'll be a good idea. Okay. Before we give up the child, let's try to, think on a one-way track. What can we do? How can we fix this? You can't just give your child up to the state and be like, oh, problem solved. That's what it felt like. Children are not toys. Children are human beings that need care. Even when this accident happened, I don't know if she had any discussion with Tutu. And Tutu probably knew, because David is her grandson. Hey, what do I do? Like, this would be the situation where you go to somebody who's more of an adult than you. And like, okay, What do I do? And Tutu probably would have gave her the right thing. Hey, you know, let's help this out. Let's talk to the hospital. Let's get this all, because you can get payment plans sorted out. You can get all that stuff sorted out. And it's harder than it sounds, but it's just giving the kid to the state. Yeah, let's just give her kid to the state. Because she's young and she would be technically a single mother, it would be hard. But I have known single mothers who have done it. And one of them, their kids are almost grown. And guess what? They're doing perfectly fine. I was there. Their uncle was there. Their aunt was there. Their grandmother was there. Their grandfather was there. Their step-grandfather was there. They had a whole community to help. And like I said, it's the community. The Ohana is the community. It's supposed to be. And yeah. The situation is you are a single mom. It's gonna be hard, but you need somebody there to help you and cheer you on and stuff. You can't just do it by yourself, and that's why it's so stupid. The state just like, oh, just I'm done rambling. It's just pissed me off. So the sisters spend one last night together, and just there reflecting on his behavior, and he thinks he's bad. And I think the one good message that got out of this movie was, you are not a bad person. Sometimes you make bad decisions. Stitch, he decides to go back to the pound and go back to the cage where he was left in. And feel like Stitch is bad. And Lilo finds him. She's like, you're not bad. Sometimes we make bad decisions. And I was like, oh. So the Grand Councilwoman calls Pleakley and Jumba and is like, alright, I changed my mind. I need you to bring Jumba back because he's the one that let this thing go, and you both have failed your mission. So this is where Jumba becomes the main bad guy. However, from what I have seen from the original, one of the parts I did see, Jumba and Pleakley, they come clean. Okay, you know, this is what's going on. You know, and Jumba gets this redemption arc with Pleakley. And this one he doesn't. And I think I would have rather seen him get a redemption arc with Pleakley, because you see in the show, I guess, I've only seen clips, where they're friends and they help take care of Lilo while Nani goes off and works. Once again, community, and Disney ruined it. So Jumba goes off, he's gonna go get Stitch, and he's gonna make sure he destroys him. So Stitch and Lilo find themselves back in Lilo's house, and they're running from Jumba, and Pleakley, you know, realizes, hey, I'm gonna try helping him. But in the process, the house is destroyed, just like in the original movie. I think in the original movie, I don't know the character's name, but there was a different bad guy. But the house gets destroyed, and Jumba goes off with Stitch, and Lilo is hiding in that ship because he has no idea she came with them. So Stitch motions like push the button, and Jumba is just talking, and then he notices Lilo. She's pushing a button, and she's pushing a button, and then Jumba starts laughing at her like, ha, you don't know what to do, and then she pushes the right button. Before all this happens though, Jumba reveals that Lilo is being used by Stitch for protection, and you could tell Stitch they did really good at making Stitch feel bad, look bad, you know, look like he felt bad. And it was so adorable. I do like the way he was so adorable. That's one reason why I did want to see this movie, is they made Stitch so adorable. So in the process, they eject Jumba from the ship. The ship crashes in the ocean, trapping Lilo and Stitch. So Nani and David rescue Lilo, and David takes Lilo to shore. They're not sure how to save Stitch because he can't swim. It's like he's a big mass that once he gets closer to gravity, he just in the ocean. Nani tries to figure out a way to save him. She finally does. She brings him back by walking, and I'm sitting there because I live by a beach. I've been swimming all my life. I'm sitting there like, how is she holding her breath like that? Oh my gosh. But it was a very intense moment, so I think they did a really good job of that. But I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you doing that? But, you know, you think for a moment Stitch is dead, and I'm crying. I'm like, how could they? And then they finally revive him. Grand Councilwoman, she comes down and she's like, I gotta punish him. And so she decides when Stitch says goodbye that maybe he's not bad. And so she says, okay, his punishment is exile to Earth. And they're all excited, and Pleakley decides to stay back. They could have done so much since Jumba and Pleakley are basically a good pair. Why would you change that? Why? Give him a redemption arc. If they're gonna do Lilo and Stitch 2, that would be the best time to give him a redemption arc. I'm just saying, but I don't know if they will. And I don't know if people will want it. But if it changes certain things, maybe people might want to see it. So then they go back to the destroyed house, and that is where the caseworker and Tutu decide to tell Nani that you're giving her up to the state, but we're gonna take her. And it's like, they could have changed that. So that way Nani can go to a college on the mainland. Here's the thing. College these days can be overrated. There are certain jobs you definitely need to go to college for. But other than that, college can be a scam. You need college to be a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, you know, certain things like that. Yes, you need college. But sometimes college is just overrated. How I would have changed it was the caseworker would have stayed out of it. Nani could have went to school on the island, still have her sister, and then Tutu and David, they can help with Lilo anytime they need to, which would probably be just about mostly every day. But they didn't go that route. Instead, she goes to the mainland, she goes to college, and then she uses the portal gun to see her sister. I think the better situation would have been that she went to college in Hawaii, kept custody of her sister to stay with her sister, and Tutu and David would have helped out, just like family. And then since she had Pleakley, he can do what he does in the shows and beyond, is help take care of Lilo. And if they would have gave Jumba his redemption arc too, they could have worked together to help out Lilo. But Disney is screwed up on that. So what would I rate this movie? I did cry. I did laugh. I would give Lilo and Stitch live action probably 8 out of 10 stars because Disney could have done better. And if you want to see my reaction to the trailer, I recorded that with Kibby about right before I saw the movie. And so we're going to post that on our second channel that we're still working to build up right now. But I will make sure to put the link down below so you guys can check our reactions out to the trailer. So thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that bell to know when I go live. I usually post videos on Thursdays, and if you like what you saw, or if you want to see me scam some scammers, check out this. Until next time, bye!
Awesome.